Joining us live in Launceston now is the Labor candidate for the seat of Lyons, Rebecca White. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It's a very narrow margin that Labor has in Lyons, but you're born and bred from there. How's it feeling? Because it can be a little bit fickle, difficult to pick.
Well, yes, I am. I grew up in Lyons, went to school here and have got a lot of friends in the community. So for me, this is actually quite personal. I'm representing not just an electorate of people, but they're my friends, my neighbours and people that I've represented for a long time in the state parliament. So the response we're getting from the community is actually pretty positive. We've done a lot of door knocking, we're speaking to a lot of people, and it's based around two things. I'd say one is that people don't feel comfortable about Peter Dutton being the Prime Minister of our country, and the other is that people do know me and they know that I'll stand up for them.
I spoke to the Chamber of Commerce and they were saying that the business community is going okay, but people are hurting. They're choosing the days to go shopping, and retail locally is feeling the pinch. Is that the same sort of read that you've got in Lyons, that the cost of living pressures have been really terrible?
I think there's no doubt that global inflationary pressures have put impacts on every family and every business, so the response that you're getting from them doesn't surprise me. We are seeing improvements in the Tasmanian economy. Our employment rate is quite low, it's about 4%, and that's consistent with the national figures. And we're also seeing now some moderation around inflation, and of course interest rates coming down. So I do feel that people are feeling hopeful again, and they're looking to political parties to understand what we can deliver to make their lives better, and I think Labor's got a better plan.
Our voters would have, our viewers would have heard some of those voters saying to me earlier, raising the Trump question and the uncertainty. Is Labor a bit lucky in that sense, that it's sort of distracted from cost of living because people are uncertain about the international outlook with Donald Trump particularly?
I think people do feel uncertain about what's happening globally. I do. I look at what's happening and you don't know from one day to another what might be changing and what impact that might have here in Australia. And for me...
Is it distracted though, you know, because we all thought it would be cost of living, but really that uncertainty internationally has been the key backdrop for the campaign.
It's certainly changed the campaign. I think cost of living still remains a key issue, and I have to say across my electorate, health would be the #1 issue that people raise with me. Matters of international flavour come up from time to time, but it's more because people are looking for certainty here at home, and I'm hoping I can give that to them because people know who I am and what kind of person I'll be as I represent them in Canberra if I'm lucky to get elected, and they know the Prime Minister and Anthony Albanese.
You might have heard the young women after their run this morning on the river here in Launceston. I spoke to a few of the voters again as we did our chat before coming onto air, and one of them said that Peter Dutton would drive up the price of goods and so on, would exacerbate the cost of living pressures. So Labor's ads seem to be working where they've said that he's opposed all the cost of living measures. As a political operator, are you reassured by that when voters are starting to repeat the lines out of your ads?
I think that what we're seeing from voters is that they've tuned into the campaign and they're looking very closely at Peter Dutton and what he stands for, and when they come to understand the truth of it, which is that he did vote against all of those cost of living measures, that he is saying now that he won't support free TAFE continuing. He's not backing our childcare improvements. I've just announced a new childcare centre in Westbury if I'm elected, which will make a massive difference to help parents participate in the workforce, especially women. He's not supporting our cuts that will make to HECS to make it easier for people to pay their student loans. So that's a reduction of 20%. So these are things I feel young voters especially are tuning into. They're seeing he's going to cut investment in housing that will see thousands more houses not be built in Tasmania if Dutton is elected. People are tuning into that and they're looking at him closely, and he hasn't been scrutinised like that for a long time, I feel, and they don't like what they see.
When we look at a couple of specific local issues, I know Macquarie Harbour, I believe that's in the seat of Braddon, but there are communities in your electorate that have an interest in what goes on when it comes to salmon farming. That legislation that the Prime Minister moved before Christmas, was that just a political fix to help you and Anne Urquhart in the 2 seats in Tasmania to neutralise that as a political issue for the Liberal Party?
No, I don't believe so, because it's something we've been working on for a long time. Obviously the state government's responsible for regulating the salmon industry in Tasmanian waters, and I think they've got to do a better job because at the moment they're letting the community and the workers down. And so what we saw from the Federal Labor Party is a response to the problems in Macquarie Harbour through the investment that's been made in protecting the skate as well, through the captive breeding program and the oxygenation of the harbour itself. So it was something that the Prime Minister had committed to, and when Parliament went back, he legislated it. That's what you want from a good leader, that they actually do the things that they say they're going to do.
And finally, you know this state better than a lot of people in terms of the politics, the seats. What's your assessment? Obviously, you know, you're very close to it in Lyons, but up here in Bass and Braddon, we've known them as seats that are ultra-marginal and that can flip one election to another. It's like the community in northern Tasmania like to keep people on their toes to say, OK, let's renew next time and change the member. What's your sense of
I think that Labor's running a better campaign. We've got a clear agenda for the country. We've been talking about investing in healthcare, particularly Medicare, more housing, fully funding education, providing free TAFE, and people are responding to that. So I do believe that the electorates of Bass and Braddon are in play for us. We've got excellent candidates in Jess Teasdale and Anne Urquhart, and in Lyons the response that I'm getting is very positive towards Labor. So I'm very hopeful that we can not only hold seats but win more seats here in Tasmania.
Rebecca White, thank you very much.